Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember any English courses you took here at ET?
I took English I'm one of those, I hated English because of my experience in high school. I hated English and I hated history. And so I got them over as quickly as I could. I took them my first 2 semesters here, and I took English and history in summer school. The sooner I could get them over with, the better. Because of my experiences in high school, I hated English.
Mm-hmm. And so it was a blur. You don't remember what you were writing or reading?
No. Actually, I have the beginning of a paper that I wrote that I still have. And actually the conversation, and I liked the English instructor. I don't remember her name, but don't know how I chose this subject, but the subject had to do with the impact of music on my life. And I remember just writing the preface, and I still have it. And she wrote in it, "This is exactly what I'm talking about." I still have it. I don't have the paper because, I wrote the paper and handed it in. Yeah. But that was a good experience for me. I loved to write more than I loved to read what they wanted you to read.
Oh, okay. So what kind of writing have you done over the years? Did you do early on?
Early as a kid, I wrote poetry.
You did?
Yeah, I can still sit around. If I were the younger generation, I could rap.
Yeah.
Because I can make it up on the fly. And my wife said, "Shut up." It's not really rap that I do. It's just poetry. I'm talking sometimes and I'm rhyming. She said, "Will you shut it up?" Yeah, love to write poetry. I actually probably loved reading poetry than I did reading novels. I never read Great Expectations. In high school, Pippin, Miss Havisham. I read the beginning, the middle, and the end of every chapter. And I went to school early, and I got with the girls because I know they read it, and I would tell them, "This is what I know, fill in the blanks." And that's how I went through English through my senior year. Even the things here, I read the beginning, the middle, the end. I get the cliff notes, and I talk to the girls because the girls will read it. I wasn't stupid. Guys weren't reading it. So that's how I made it through English, high school, and through here. But if I had to write something or read poetry, that was more what I wanted to do, not novels. I'm ashamed, but I've never read anything totally by Shakespeare. I read the beginning, the middle, and the end. Because I grew up, my high school experience was, everybody was a literary genius that I was reading, and I was like, well, what about the black literary geniuses? Where are they? And so I guess because of my political stance, I didn't read any of that.
But you'd read Autobiography of Malcolm X.
I read it.
All from beginning to end.
Yeah, from beginning to end.
Yeah,
because as I told my English teacher, I can remember once she was talking about Shakespeare. I said, "You know what? Shakespeare didn't grow up in my neighborhood. Shakespeare's experience is not my experience." Little did I know, a lot of his writing was about my experience or similar. I just didn't want to read it. I defied the instructor. It wasn't the reading that I was defying. It was the fact that you were making me read it.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that.
Yeah.
You were the Post Tribune and the Dallas Express, the African American papers that you read was the content political, or is it or just about the black community, or?
It would give you information that was going on, events in the neighborhood that you would not find in the morning news. I can remember even as, don't know how long this happened, but if I was in high school, when I was in high school, if you would read the Sunday paper, whatever the guide is, the section with the weddings in it, you never saw African Americans. You never saw them. And when you finally did see them, everybody was, "Oh man, did you see? There's it was, yeah. You didn't see, for the morning news in the African American community, and not just the African American, I think just in the African American community all over, that if you're reading the paper, if if there was a crime or something, they'd have the picture. But if you were reading something where someone that it was crime related and they didn't have the picture, you knew they were white.
Huh. Yeah.
You knew. That's just the way it was. Yeah. And so the weekly papers really educated you on what was happening. Information. It was more political. It had a political slant that, of course, the morning news would not have. Issues that you need to be concerned about, getting out to vote, those kinds of things, and that's still there. It's still their stick.
What was your brother reading? Did he write as well?
Because of the big age difference in my brother and I, we never went to the same school. My brother read the paper. I know that. Anything else, I don't. I just won't remember because there's such a gap in our age.
Yeah. Well, how did you meet your wife?
I met Carolyn. First of all, I married. I dated a girl here in college. Married her. Didn't work. We were best of friends, and when we got married, that was my proposal. My proposal was, you are my best friend, but there are differences in our personalities that say we may not make it. But what I don't want to do is go the rest of not marry you, go the rest of my life and wonder would we have made it. And so the vow that we made with each other is that we would do our best, but if it didn't work, we would divorce because we had to remain friends because she was my friend. And so it didn't work. We remained friends. I moved to Dallas, and I was single for 18 years.
Oh, okay.
Met, and I've been married now almost 12 years. Met Carolyn. Carolyn's married, divorced, had a daughter. Her daughter actually came to the club that I worked at, Girls Club. So I knew Kristen didn't know her mom. Her mom probably dropped her off, and I just never paid attention because when I worked at Girls Inc., because I'm the only guy, I had to have blinders on. And so I didn't pay attention I didn't date people that I had any work relationship with. Kristen, when I worked at I Have a Dream, Kristen was part of I Have a Dream as well. Because the neighborhood that I worked in, they came in and adopted 3 schools in that neighborhood. She went to one of those schools. So I saw her one time, and long story short version is, Kristen's project manager, the professional staff member that we had who worked with her, knew Carolyn for years. And I remember she came and she said, what do you think of Miss Cleaver? I said, what do you mean, what do I think? I don't think of her. She said, well, what do you think about her to date her? I said, well, I thought she was married. I assumed everybody was married. I said, well, she's married. She said, no, she's not. And so, long story, but she was telling Carolyn, you need to talk to this guy. And she's telling me, you need to talk to her. And so I ran into Carolyn at some, I think they were going on the college tour, and I bought donuts and juice and stuff and met them. And I saw Carolyn and I said, Cherie is really working me. And she said, yep, she's doing the same with me. And I said, well, I'll call you one time. She's really wearing me out. Every time I see her, she's like, when are you going to call? When are you going to call? And so once I had a work number, and I called her at work, and I said, look, and Cherie had given it to me. She said, look. I said, look, well, you want to go out to lunch? I said, I'd really like to take you out to lunch, and I really need to get Cherie off my back. And so we went out to lunch, and we hit it off immediately. I saw her every day since then. Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's the moral of that story is